Hello everyone and welcome to Midlife Crisis, the show where I talk about every single DC crossover event in chronological order. This week we are going to begin our journey through Countdown, later known as Countdown to Final Crisis. Much like 52, Countdown to Final Crisis is a 52-issue weekly series. However, unlike 52, the only person to return to this series was Keith Giffen, who was once again the art director for the series. Geoff Johns, Mark Waid, Grant Morrison, and Greg Rucka did not return to write Countdown, and instead, Countdown was written by a new creative team: Paul Dini, Jim Palmiotti, Sean McKeever, Tony Bedard, Adam Beechin, and Justin Gray. And unlike 52, where the four original writers worked together to create every single issue, Countdown is written by different writers out of this group of writers, depending on what issue it is. So sometimes it's Paul Dini, sometimes it's Tony Bedard, it's never consistent. The history behind Countdown is pretty straightforward. Dan DiDio, who was the editor-in-chief at DC at the time, didn't like 52. The reason he didn't like 52 is because it wasn't connected to anything else within the DC universe. It just told its own story and didn't lead up to anything, and he hated that. And also, the original premise of that event was that it would follow the lives of the major characters that aren't Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. So he believed that the event would follow characters like Green Lantern and Aquaman, but that didn't end up happening. Instead, 52 decided to follow the lives of D-list characters and C-list characters like Booster Gold and Steel, etc. And Dan DiDio was not a fan of that. Allegedly, Dan DiDio would walk around the office complaining about how much he hated 52 while it was being printed. And so once 52 ended, DiDio decided that he was going to do his own 52, but better. And that's a quote. He said that Countdown would be 52, but better. It would incorporate a lot more characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and it would connect to the larger DC universe and actually build up to something. That was the goal of Countdown, that it would build up to the next big event, which would be Final Crisis, which is why it's called Countdown to Final Crisis. One of the major differences between 52 and Countdown is the timeline. 52 took place within its own time bubble. There was a time skip in the DC universe at the time, and 52 told the stories that happened during the time skip, while the rest of the comics got to continue on with their own stories that took place a year after. That allowed 52 to tell its own stories without being interrupted by anything, which is why it worked so well, and all the stories had satisfying conclusions and were never stalled in any kind of way. Countdown, on the other hand, takes place at the same time as every other comic book going on at the time, and it crosses over with a lot of them, which means that if a character is in Countdown and then becomes unavailable because of the story that is going on in their own comic, they will become unavailable to use in Countdown, which leads to a lot of stories having to stall because their characters are unavailable or are busy doing something else. And as you'll soon see, this is a problem that Countdown faces multiple times during its run. Another major difference between Countdown and 52 is Countdown has tie-ins. There are a group of miniseries that all tie in to Countdown, and I will be covering them all on the channel. But the problem is, there's no reading order for Countdown. I spent hours on the internet looking for a cohesive reading order for Countdown, and there isn't one. So what I'm going to do is I will read half of Countdown, and then I will do all of the miniseries, and then I will read the second half of Countdown, because the most I could gather was that every miniseries takes place around about halfway through Countdown. That's the best I can do. As I mentioned earlier, Keith Giffen returned as the art director for Countdown, and he is accompanied by another group of artists. So for this series, the artists that join him are Jesus Sayers, Jim Calafiore, Carlos Magno, David Lopez, Tom Derenick, Jamal Igle, and Manuel Garcia. And these artists will switch up and change pretty much every issue, just like they did in 52. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, please like and subscribe, and let's just jump right into Countdown. Countdown issue 51 begins with Desaad and Darkseid talking about a grand plan that Darkseid has to reimagine the entire universe the way he wants it to be. He has chess pieces of real people, and he is going to manipulate them in a way that fits this mysterious scheme of his. One of these chess pieces is the Harlequin, aka Duella Dent, who is possibly the daughter of Two-Face, but thinks she's the daughter of the Joker. We don't know for sure. It changes all the time. Her identity is like the Joker's, where we just don't know what's real and what's not. One thing we do know about Duella Dent is that she's from another Earth. She was not born on this one. She came from another Earth. Kind of like Jason Todd. He didn't come from another Earth, but he isn't supposed to be a part of the timeline. The timeline was messed up by Superboy Prime, and that brought Jason Todd back to life. Similar situation with Duella Dent. Superboy Prime messing with time brought Duella Dent to this Earth. Duella is at a nightclub where she kidnaps a famous singer called Tracy Angel. In order to extort money out of her, she tells her that she either contacts her manager so that she can get all this money, or she'll kill her. Their conversation gets interrupted by a bullet that goes straight through her parachute. And she's like, oh, deal's off, gotta let them know. Sorry kid, them's the brakes. And she drops Tracy and then lands on top of a building and comes face to face with Red Hood, where it's revealed that Red Hood saved Tracy from her fall. Duella Dent used to be a member of the Teen Titans, and so they try to play with that a little bit when Jason Todd and Duella talk to one another. They act as if Jason Todd knows her, when in reality, he doesn't really know her. He was a member of the Teen Titans for a little bit as Robin, but she wasn't a member of the Teen Titans when he was. This might even be the first time they've probably met and had a conversation, but it doesn't act like that. It acts like they know each other really well. She starts getting a little philosophical, saying, how does Jason Todd fit into the cosmic, like, all cosmic things and reality? For your sake, I hope you find out. As for me, I'm in the wind. And she jumps off the building with a parachute. While Red Hood keeps Tracy company, he shoots at Duella's parachute, causing her to fall from the sky, but she grabs onto a nearby pole and gets herself to safety. It's like, time to ditch no fun boy. And then she runs away from Red Hood and starts leaping across buildings. Meanwhile, inside one of those nearby buildings, a hospital, Mary Marvel has recently woken up from a coma, and she has no powers. I don't remember how she lost her powers, but she has. She doesn't have any money or insurance, but Freddie Freeman, who is Captain Marvel Jr., pays it off for her, and then gives her a note that tells her not to find him. She heads outside, she says Shazam, and her powers don't work. Instead, it just starts raining. She's like, heh. And then she says to herself, I have to keep telling myself there's a difference between being powerless and being helpless. See you soon, Freddy. I promise. And she just walks away into the rain. The Trickster shows up at Heatwave's place because the Rogues are coming together for a meeting. Heatwave doesn't trust the snacks that the Trickster has brought, so he sets them on fire. He's like, I don't trust those pretzels. They're probably spiked. And then it's actually the beer that's trapped. He's like, nope, the beer. Son of a... Heatwave didn't even want to invite Trickster because they don't trust him very much because he used to be a good guy. It's the same reason why they haven't invited Pied Piper. It's like, simmer down, Sparky. I don't know about the fancy lab, but I got my head straight again. I'm all for treating Flash to a righteous beatdown if that's what you got in mind. Please, that's just a starter. Meanwhile, Pied Piper is on another building where a rat comes up to him and tells him about the Rogues' little meeting, and so he wants to get there to make sure that Trickster doesn't encroach on any more of his territory, because apparently Trickster has been getting in on his territory, because the Pied Piper is a bad guy again. He used to be an ally of the Flash, and then he just suddenly became evil again. It was really stupid. Duella Dent continues to be chased by who she thinks is Red Hood, but it's not Red Hood. This person, whoever is chasing her, is shooting beams and stuff. She tries to use a gag spray taser, and it hits this mysterious person who is very clearly not Red Hood, and she gets shocked back by them. It's like, oh hell, as we see the shadow of this figure lurk over her. Red Hood brings Tracy to a cop, but then hears a couple of gunshots and a scream. He's like, Duella? Duella tries escaping up a ladder, but the ladder gets blasted down by this mysterious assailant. The world is not yours. Your presence in it is not tolerated. The penalty is death. Red Hood shows up. He's like, to each his own. I'm not too tolerant of gun-wielding crazies myself. And he attacks this mysterious being who is revealed to be a monitor. This monitor is going around killing people that he deems to be anomalies. People that shouldn't exist on this Earth, either because they came from another Earth, or because they just shouldn't exist because they were dead and then they were brought back to life. So that includes Duella Dent, who he blasts with a beam and kills. And then he tries to kill Jason Todd as well, because Jason Todd is supposed to be dead. It's like, all such anomalies must be purged, just as you shall be purged, Jason Todd. And he points his gun at Jason, but the gun gets blasted out of his hand as another monitor shows up, because recently in comics, it's been revealed that there's a whole group of monitors. Society of monitors, and they look over all of reality. And apparently this monitor is starting to go rogue, and so this other monitor is like, you can't go around doing this stuff. And this monitor, the evil monitor, that if he goes back and explains this to the other monitors, they'll probably agree with him. And then he teleports off, and the nice monitor turns to Duella Dent's body and says, I am sorry. And then he leaves. And Jason Todd approaches Duella Dent's body as if he knows her really well, and just mourns her death. And so the nice monitor heads to the Source Wall, where he asks the Source Wall what's going on, why this monitor is going around killing people from other Earths and stuff. Source Wall says that a great disaster is coming, and this nice monitor asks what this disaster is and how they can prevent it. And the Source Wall states that Ray Palmer is the key to stopping this great disaster. Jimmy Olsen begins investigating the death of Duella Dent with the help of Clark Kent, who uses his powers to show Jimmy Olsen Red Hood's whereabouts so that he can speak with him. And he warns Jimmy that Red Hood's a little crazy. And also a little scary, which Jimmy finds out immediately when he enters the room to find Red Hood fighting a ton of ninjas. Jimmy watches as Red Hood takes down all of these ninjas and then asks him a couple questions about Duella Dent and what happened to her. Red Hood just explains that some dude showed up, an alien dude, and then another alien dude that looks exactly like the other one showed up as well, and he has no idea how these two things correlate. He just says to Jimmy that it's all crazy. And Jimmy's like, I was hoping you'd have a little more information that would help me. And Red Hood says that if he wants more information about crazy things, then he should go and meet with someone who, at Arkham Asylum, who is the king of crazy. And we know exactly who he's talking about. Meanwhile, Mary Marvel goes and visits with Madame Xanadu to ask her for the whereabouts of Freddie Freeman. And there's a weird moment in this where Madame Xanadu just refers to him as the cripple because Freddie Freeman is disabled. He uses crutches to get around. Just a bit of an iffy moment in this. She explains to Mary Marvel that if she gets her powers back, there are dark futures ahead of her, especially if she goes to Gotham City. She tells Mary Marvel, do not go to Gotham City. And Mary says, why shouldn't I go to Gotham City? Can't you tell me more? And Madame Xanadu says, it's dangerous enough that I'm looking into the future this much. If I do it anymore, things could get real dangerous for us. Mary Marvel complains, saying that she's just as lost as she was before, but then she turns to Madame Xanadu as she's leaving and says, okay then, thanks for clearing everything up. Like a moment ago you were complaining about how you're still just as lost as you were before you came in here, but as you're leaving, you're thanking her for helping clear everything up? That doesn't even make any sense. Meanwhile, Batman and Karate Kid are fighting for some reason. Yeah, this is a character called Karate Kid, who is actually called Val Armour. That's his real name. He's a member of the Legion of Superheroes. For some reason, he's referring to himself as Trident, and he's fighting Batman for reasons that we will probably discover later. But their fight continues. Val steals Batman's utility belt because Val is supposed to be the greatest fighter of all time. It's kind of his superpower. But then he gets knocked out by Black Lightning, and Batman tells Lightning to take Val to the Hall of Justice so they can figure out why he's here and why he's calling himself Trident, who is the name of another character. The Rogues all meet up because at this very moment, that Flash series that I covered in another video, all about inertia, bringing all the Rogues together in order to kill Bart Allen, who is the current Flash, that is going on right now. So they're meeting up because inertia is gathering them all together, and a lot of them are annoyed that he has hired the Trickster and Pied Piper to join them because they don't trust them. There's a moment in this where Heatwave is doing drugs, and it was already established in the Jeff Johns Flash run that Captain Cold hates drugs, and that's the one thing that the Rogues are not allowed to do. And Mirror Master was the one who was known as the druggie. Heatwave has never been known to do drugs. So this is like a continuity error for the Rogues. They don't do drugs. Mirror Master appears towards the other Rogues, bringing them a message from Inertia, and a big fight breaks out between them because they don't trust Pied Piper or the Trickster. Heatwave breaks up the fight, and Mirror Master explains to them that they're gonna have this meeting with Inertia and Captain Cold, and that Pied Piper and the Trickster are gonna have to prove themselves worthy by doing something evil so that they can come to the meeting. And if they don't show up at the meeting, the Rogues will hunt them down and kill them. Jimmy Olsen heads to Arkham Asylum to meet with the Joker, because he's trying to understand a crazy situation, and who better to go to than the king of crazy, the Joker. Also, the person who got killed calls themselves Joker's daughter, so Jimmy just assumes that she really is Joker's daughter, and Joker acts like she is his daughter, because when he hears of her death, he acts like he's super sad. He's like, oh, murdered? No, say it isn't so. My baby, my poor, sweet, precious, evil little baby, who could have done such a terrible thing? Was it you? No, I was hoping you might know. Know what? Who killed your daughter? Do you know? I'm asking you. Asking me what? If I'm in on the joke? Okay, this is obviously a bad idea. You don't know anything. I know more than you, Jimbo. You're a photographer. You have the all-seeing eye of the camera, but your lens cap is still on. You're out of focus. You can't see the big picture. What big picture? Come closer and I'll show you. No way, Joker. What's the big picture? It's a universal conspiracy, Jimbo. It is all around us. Something's not quite right with the world. Haven't you noticed? Haven't you felt it? You're crazy and locked away. How would you know? You're right. I'm a conspiracy nut. And ha! You know what else? Oh, this is a kicker. My daughter isn't dead. You wanna know why? Yeah, because
I don't have a daughter. Never did. Ha 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 ha. Doppelganger's gone wild, Jimbo. My daughter. You slay me. Let me slay you in return. And he just continues laughing, and Jimmy's like, freak show. So long, Jimbo. Be a sweetie and send me the obituaries. You'll come back real soon, you hear? I better touch base with Lois. Let her know this whole thing has been a dead end. And as he says that on the phone, Killer Croc comes up behind Jimmy, and we'll find out what happens. Jimmy calls Lois on the phone and relays all the information that he had gotten when talking to the Joker, but then he gets attacked by Killer Croc, who has escaped from custody, and when Killer Croc attacks him, Jimmy's body starts stretching around like it's made out of elastic, like Mr. Fantastic. Killer Croc's thrown off of it. He's like, these people pump me so full of meds I can't even trust my eyes anymore, but I bet you taste just fine. And then he gets zapped by the guards behind him, knocking him out. And one of the guards comes over to him, to Jimmy, and is like, wow, we thought you got ripped to pieces. And Jimmy just looks at himself and is like, huh? Maybe all that adrenaline was messing with my head. Like, I thought I got ripped apart too. So it's like Jimmy didn't realize he went all rubbery and elastic. So yeah, I wonder what that's all about. The monitors all have a meeting about that one monitor killing Duella Dent. They do not agree with what he did. They pretty much just say to him, what you did was awful. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be making choices like this. We have no jurisdiction in that manner. And the bad monitor says, we've been dealing with so many crises over the years, and they've just created more and more people who shouldn't exist on this earth. So maybe we should just get rid of them all, and that will stop all these crises from happening, because they normally happen when time anomalies exist. And there are 3 characters who are the biggest time anomalies, according to him. And that's Red Hood, Kyle Rayner, Jason Todd, Kyle Rayner, and Donna Troy. Now, I can understand Donna Troy because of how complicated her backstory is and how many times it's been rebooted and retconned. But Kyle Rayner, I don't get why he's on the list. I've read all of his comics. He's just a regular guy who became a Green Lantern because the Guardian found him in an alleyway. Because all the Guardians had been killed, so he gave Kyle a ring to make him the new one, because they needed a new Green Lantern. There's nothing about his backstory that would make him a time anomaly or something. I don't know. I don't get why he's on the list. And then Jason Todd's obvious. And then the monitor says, after all, is it really murder if these creatures shouldn't be alive in the first place? It's like, yeah, it is murder. Also, Kyle Rayner hasn't died at any point and then come back when he shouldn't have. His mom died, but he didn't. At least not that I can remember. Pretty sure if he died, I would remember that. Karate Kid is interrogated by Red Arrow. By interrogated, I mean not really. He's been interrogated by a bunch of the other Justice League members, and they've all failed in getting information out of him. So Karate Kid's like, Red Arrow? Like, you think you're not even as good as those other guys? How do you think you're gonna get information out of me? And Red Arrow's just like, well, at least my name's not Karate Kid. Do me a favor, would you? Wax off. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Seaboard, some old guy is transferring all of his money into a bank account. He then throws the phone away, jumps into the ocean to his death. Turns out this guy was mind-controlled by Piper, because this is the way that Trickster and Piper are showing their loyalty to the Rogues, by taking all this guy's money, putting it in Mirror Master's bank account, and then getting the guy to kill himself. But Mirror Master says that he doesn't know if he can still trust them, because this guy wasn't a good guy that got killed. He was a bad dude. He was getting the money in all sorts of schemy ways, taking advantage of old women with scams. But once he sees the money in his account, Mirror Master agrees and lets them join their little group of rogues. But then Pied Piper takes all the money out of his account and transfers it into his own account, or at least that's what he tells Mirror Master. because Mirror Master killed his parents. It's like, you owe me that. And Mirror Master's like, okay, now that we're even, like, let's get past this. And Pied Piper's like, we're never gonna be even. Piper goes to the outside of the boat where Trickster approaches him and reveals that he knows that Pied Piper didn't kill that guy. And that he used his flute to mind control the guy into thinking that he could swim all the way back to land without dying, and that worked. So I guess if Pied Piper uses his flute to make somebody believe that they are immortal, then they'll live forever, or that they're invincible and they can just never die. He also reveals to Piper that he knows that Piper did not send that $1 million to his own account, and it turns out Piper did send the money to a homeless children's fund. And Trickster says, if you can prove to me your loyalty by sending the money to my account instead. And so there's a sad scene of this woman explaining to this other guy that she could have sworn there was $1 million in their account and now it's just gone poof. It's kind of sad. You don't want to see these homeless children funds just get taken away like that. Mary Marvel goes to Gotham City even though Madame Xanadu told her not to, because of course she does. And the moment she gets there, because she has no powers, and also because she's a woman, sadly, she gets attacked by predators. And so she runs into a nearby building to take refuge, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the Kahndaq Embassy. They don't say that that's what it is, but she recognizes it, and there is somebody in this building taking refuge. So I'm guessing it's supposed to be the Kahndaq Embassy after it fell apart at the end of 52. She goes in there, she gets chased by one of the predators. The predator gets grabbed by Black Adam. I'm just going to say it's him because it's so obvious it's him if you just look at this panel. Gets grabbed by Black Adam, pulled up into the sky, and killed off panel. Mary runs and trips over a bunch of bodies that Black Adam killed. Like, who are they? Drugs, addicts, squatters, real estate agents, people stupid enough to intrude upon my solitude. People like you! And Black Adam launches himself at her. And Mary's like, Adam, wait, it's me, Mary Marvel. Well then, this day is not a total loss. Now I don't know what's been happening to Black Adam after 52. Last time I saw him, he was just in Kahndaq as a regular dude with no powers because they took away the magic word from him. They changed his magic word and didn't tell him what it was, so he was trying to figure out what it was. I guess he already figured it out because he is Black Adam. And he came to Gotham for some reason. And he's in this building, which I think is the Kahndaq Embassy. I don't know that for sure. He's just in a building. I don't know. I might be a bit behind on my Black Adam lore. But this event started right after 52, so I would assume, like, publishing right after 52. So I would assume that this was Black Adam's next appearance after that. Mary Marvel comes face to face with Black Adam. Well, Black Adam looks at her and says, "Hey, are you afraid of me?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course I'm afraid of you. You murdered all these people." Black Adam's like, "Yeah, and you're next on my list." Mary Marvel's just like, "Whoa, wait. I'm here for your help." Black Adam's like, "Help? Why didn't you go see your brother, Captain Marvel?" Mary Marvel's like, "Because I can't get help from him. I want help from someone that I can relate to, because I've recently lost my powers, and, well, I'm alone, you're alone. I mean, you have your powers, so we don't have that much in common, but we're both alone, so maybe we can help each other." And when she mentions his powers, Black Adam just starts laughing his head off. Jimmy Olsen heads off to see Perry White and Lois Lane in order to give them an update on the alien situation that he's currently investigating after his conversations with Red Hood and the Joker. He talks about how he went to the Joker and that the Joker's daughter isn't actually his daughter, apparently. They ask Jimmy about what happened over the phone when he went all elasticy, and Jimmy just kind of doesn't say anything about that. He's like, "Oh, it was nothing." All of a sudden, a big rumbling noise comes from outside. Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane all look outside to see massive beams of light shooting into the sky, smashing through water towers. Giant clouds begin forming over the sky, and Perry tells Jimmy to go out and start doing his journalism on this. Jimmy's already 2 steps ahead. He's heading out. He brings out his Superman watch and he calls Superman for help, just in case Superman can help deal with this. He also prays that Superman isn't the one in the sky that's screaming, because apparently there are screams coming from the sky. One of these beams of light hits a nearby golem, which almost kills a group of people, but Jimmy decides that he needs to do something about it. He needs to help these people. But how's he gonna do that? He's just a regular dude. The Titans hold a funeral for Dwella Dent, and Donna Troy decides to stay behind because she knew Dwella quite well, because Dwella was a member of the original team of Teen Titans that she was a member of. And that's when Jason Todd shows up and starts spouting some awful dialogue. Like, "Hey babe, come here often?" "Jason, I didn't expect to see you at anyone's funeral, let alone Dwella's. I mean, you barely even knew her." I like that Paul Dini at least pointed out the fact that Jason doesn't know her. That was something that complained about a little bit in the previous issue, so I'm glad that he pointed it out. "I knew her well enough to try to save her and feel like crap when I couldn't. Besides, checking out funerals is kind of a hobby for me. I even had one once, remember?" When was the last time you checked out a funeral, Jason? Why are you acting like that's a thing that you do on a regular basis? I don't think it is. Jason explains that Dwella's death got him thinking about what the Monitor had said, about how Dwella had come from another Earth and didn't belong on this one, and that he doesn't either, and then he points out the fact that Donna has a really complicated past that has been retconned multiple times, and that means that they are connected in that way. I guess I just wanted to be around someone else who might know how it feels to be living on borrowed time. This idea of Jason Todd and Donna Troy crossing over with each other for this very reason isn't necessarily a bad idea. It all just depends on how Paul Dini writes it. If he goes in a weird direction where they are shipped together, then that's a problem. Karate Kid's interrogations continue. This time he's talking to Thom, who used to be a member of the Legion of Superheroes. He was Starboy. Now he's Starman and is a member of the Justice League. And this is some of the worst dialogue that we've come across so far in this. Because as far as I can tell, Starman has gone insane. I mean, just look at this. I mean, I'm no danger to the Justice League. Well, there's danger, then there's danger, and then there's danger, and then there's Maude. What does that mean? I have no idea. Oh, Thom, you don't know how it hurts me to see you like this. I wish I knew what happened to you. I wish Brandy and La were here. Maybe they could figure it out. Maybe they could figure out what happened to me, how I wound up in that Trident suit with that Starro thing on my neck. That's easy. Impossible happened to you. Wait, what did you say? What does that mean? Impossible happened to you. Dr. Impossible. She did both those things to you. We don't know why. I don't like it when villains I've never heard of from a time I don't belong in use me for purposes no one can figure out. Makes me nuts. Yeah, well, welcome to the 21st century. Chock full of nuts. Welcome to my world. Like, this dialogue is just awful. Like, what are they even going on about? This whole conversation is all over the place. It feels like somebody that's trying to do Bendis speak, but it lacks any of the charm of Bendis speak and is just confusing garble. Black Adam finishes laughing at Miss Marvel and states that his powers are a curse. Miss Marvel rebuts that with, "They're not a curse, they're a gift. I wish You wish? Make no mistake. Just as these fools ask for death by coming here, so do you ask for it with the request you make." Seems like Black Adam's gonna try and kill Miss Marvel anyway. Maybe. Jimmy Olsen saves those people from earlier by activating speed powers randomly. He just has them for a moment and then they're gone. It's just like that other moment where he had elastic powers for a moment and then they're gone. It seems like Jimmy Olsen just keeps getting these powers randomly activating at different times. He then hears a noise coming from the sky, and a massive beam of light smashes into the ground like a meteor. And he goes over to the crevice and finds the character Light Ray, who is a new god, in the crevice. Superman arrives, and he decides to go and check up in the sky where Light Ray fell from to see if he can find a person responsible, or thing responsible. And he tells Jimmy to keep Light Ray company. Jimmy goes down to Light Ray to make sure he's okay. Light Ray suddenly grabs onto his hand. It's like, infinite, infinite, infinite. Can't get free. What's happening? No! A big ball of light envelops Light Ray and Jimmy. Superman heads into the sky where he sees a mysterious figure escaping through a boom tube. And so he heads back down to the city to tell Jimmy. But when he gets there, he sees the big explosion that Jimmy and Light Ray are in. He gets up to where Jimmy is. He's like, "Are you alright?" "I'm fine, Superman. But Light Ray... I think Light Ray's dead. But how is that even possible?" "I don't know, Jimmy. What does it mean for the universe when a god dies?" So Light Ray is dead. Jimmy Olsen finds himself floating in front of the source wall, where he sees Light Ray trapped in the source wall. He tells him to open his eyes, and when Jimmy opens his eyes, he finds himself trapped on the source wall as well. He begins screaming, "No!" And then he wakes up in his bed because it turns out he was just having a nightmare. It's like, oh man, what in the world's happening to me? Holly Robinson, who is a close friend of Selina Kyle, and used to be a sex worker, has recently killed a cop, apparently, and so she's become a fugitive. A guy comes up to her and offers her a job to do what he quote-unquote says is fetish stuff. And Holly says, "Nah," kicks him in the face. It's like, "Sorry, I don't do that anymore." And then she checks her phone, where all of her contacts, like Selena and stuff, are. She's like, "No!" and throws her phone on the ground. "You can't contact them. You can't. Be strong. You've lived like this before. It's a fresh start, Holly. A fresh start." And then she continues walking down the street. Black Adam and Mary Marvel continue their conversation. Black Adam's like, "You're saying that this is an accidental meeting?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You didn't come here for anything?" He's like, "No. But we know that she did because in the last issue she said that she came to see if Black Adam could help her." So she's straight up lying. And Black Adam knows she's lying. But she acts like she isn't lying. So he starts getting really mad, throwing all sorts of stuff around. He hates the Wizard, and he hates this idea that Mary is asking him for help to contact the Wizard. "No, this is not mere coincidence. If it were, you would have fled immediately. Instead, here you stand, desperate, empty, alone. If we are two of a kind, then follow my lead, except that there's nothing left for you but to let go and fall into the abyss." "You're wrong, there's hope." "Oh yes, hope. Do you know something, Mary?" And then he grabs Mary's throat and slams her into a nearby wall. "Hope is a sick delusion." The Monitors all have a meeting where the good Monitor tries to convince everyone that what the bad Monitor is doing is bad. Like, Earth hopping and killing anomalies is a bad thing. Because it doesn't make them monitors, it makes them monsters. There's a moment in this where he says, "This is a crisis of conscience." And I'm like, oh, you said the thing! That's the name of a story that Jeff Johns wrote. But then one of the other monitors, who is an evil monitor, says to all of the other monitors, "Yo guys, this guy is saying the wrong stuff. What we should do is kill these anomalies because they are a virus. They are a reason that this crisis is on its way. There is gonna be another crisis, and it's Jason Todd, Donna Troy, and Kyle Rayner's fault. So we need to track them down and kill those three specific characters for some reason. Like, for some reason, it's those three. They don't even think about going after Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, any of the characters from Earth 2. No, it's these three. It's probably because Dan DiDio likes those characters, and he doesn't like Red Hood, Donna Troy, and Kyle Rayner. So he told Paul Dini to make those the three characters that the Monitors are trying to kill. You know, just speculation. To the good Monitor's dismay, all of the Monitors in the room begin cheering, "Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!" Because apparently that's how impressionable they are. The evil Monitor had to do was say, "Are you with me?" Pied Piper and the Trickster meet up and ask each other why they became members of the Rogues again, because they were living the good life for a while, being good guys. Trickster explains that the reason he rejoined the Rogues is because being an FBI agent was boring. Like, being at a desk was boring. But what he could do is be a rogue, and then if he ever gets caught, he just plans on pretending that he's undercover so that he can have his cake and eat it too. And I don't think anyone ever plays with that idea. This probably never gets brought up again, ever. Pied Piper explains that he's a rogue because he has nowhere else to go. He hates all of the rogues, especially Mirror Master, but he has no family because his parents are dead, and Wally and Linda are both gone, so he has nothing. So he's just going around doing whatever. Going wherever the wind takes him. I do appreciate that Paul Dini is trying to leave it open for Pied Piper to be a good guy still, instead of what happened in the Bart Allen Flash run, where it was made very clear that Pied Piper is a bad guy in that. There is a moment in this where you can tell that Pied Piper is a gay character being written by a straight guy, because Trickster says, "I guess I could say I want to have my cake and eat it too, so to speak." And Pied Piper turns to him and says, "That's not a euphemism, Trickster. Not a gay one, anyway. Don't worry, you're safe." Like, you can just tell that's just a straight guy trying to write a gay person. I don't know. It felt very derogative. Black Adam continues to terrify the crap out of Miss Marvel. She begs him, "Please, I just want my old life back." "I'm sorry, Mary, but we both know that's impossible. But I can ease your loneliness with the company of the gods." Shazam! And then a big, crack of lightning smashes into Black Adam, sending him flying backwards and sending Mary Marvel flying backwards as well. Adam reverts back to his original form, where he tries to push a whole bunch of rubble off of him. Somebody comes over and lifts the rubble off for him. It turns out that it's Mary Marvel. She now has Black Adam's powers, because Black Adam passed them on to her. It's like, "Look how you've grown. You've given me all of it. Why? I have lived a long time with enough burden. Besides, it's only what you wanted, isn't it?" "Teth Adam, what can I do?" "If you see your brother, tell him I'm sorry." And then there's a moment in this where the comic has to remind you that another event is going on at the same time. Amazon's attack. It's like Dan DiDio was like, "Oh, we got another event going on, so can you put that into Countdown? Like, mention it in Countdown, please, Paul Dini?" If you want to find out what happens in Amazon's attack, you can go and watch my video all about Amazon's attack. Jimmy Olsen goes and visits Lois Lane, where he explains to her the nightmares that he's been having recently. There's also a moment in this where Paul Dini shamelessly plugs Amazon's attack, where he has Jimmy say some dialogue. "Gee, Lois, I know the Amazon's attack on Washington is the hardest story going, but aren't you worried about Clark covering it from the front lines?" Like, the hottest story going. You couldn't even be more obvious with this shameless attempt at selling this other event. Lois tells Jimmy to keep investigating this situation because he has a connection to the New Gods, because he's known them longer than any of them. And then Jimmy receives a mysterious letter. He looks at the letter and decides to head off, and Lois is like, "Don't forget your camera." He's like, "Oh yeah. Alright, thanks Lois, see ya." And he heads off. Mary Marvel now has Black Adam's powers and is scouring the city for any bad guys to stop. Recently, in Infinite Crisis, the Rock of Eternity, which is where Captain Marvel usually is, or Shazam the Wizard, blew up and the pieces of it got sent flying throughout the entire globe, some of which landing in the very city that Mary Marvel is in. She sees one of these pieces of the Rock of Eternity being worshipped by a group of girls. So Mary's like, alright, I guess I gotta stop them, because they're mishandling that piece of the Rock of Eternity. And then a pendulum forms between all of them, and a big explosion happens, which kills these women, and in their place is a demon called Pharyngula, who is made out of dead babies. I am not joking. He says that he is the harvester of stillborn souls. Long have I been trapped within the borders of the Rock of Eternity, no doubt for the betterment of humanity. Forgive, but I have not spoken English in 600 years, and American as a dialect is unfamiliar with me. Perhaps you could help. And then he attacks Mary with these babies, these dead babies. It's really messed up. And he's like, I will devour your flesh and suck the digested waste from your intestines. Like, it's just disgusting. What the hell is going on? We then cut to the rogues, who are having yet another meeting, because that's all they do in this series, is just have meetings and argue, and it makes you wonder, why did they decide to have a story that revolved around a bunch of unlikable characters? Because they all suck. Like, Pied Piper is the nicest out of all of them. The rest of them all suck. Mirror Master is just being incredibly misogynistic to the waitress that is serving them. That causes an argument between him and Pied Piper, and they start fighting, and the rest of the rogues begin betting on who's gonna die and how they're gonna die, who's gonna kill the other, what injuries are they gonna get. And then Captain Cold shows up and stops the fight by freezing both Piper and Mirror Master, and he's there with Inertia. He's just like, chill out, let's just get this over with. And then Inertia starts drinking alcohol off of Mirror Master's frozen arm, because why not? Shows that he's so edgy. The Father Rogue story is probably the worst one, because all it is the characters having meetings for a different series that I've already read, which is The Flash Fastest Man Alive. It's just really slow setup for that story. So it just feels pointless, because I already know what's going to happen. The letter that Jimmy Olsen received tells him to go to number 666 at Suicide Slums, because of course. And when he gets there, Holly Robinson just happens to be outside the building and tells Jimmy that he probably doesn't want to go in there. Jimmy's like, yeah, I don't. And he heads in, and there he meets a character called Sleaze, who used to be a servant to Darkseid, but he managed to get away from Darkseid, and now he's plotting his revenge against Darkseid. And he knows the secret to Darkseid's weakness, and he's about to tell Jimmy. He's like, the secret to Darkseid's weakness is, oh no, he's here. No, run away, do it now. And whoever is here blows up the building, and the rubble from the building almost kills an old man, but he's saved by Holly. And then a mysterious voice says, hello, Sleaze. Jimmy's like, not again. No, please, leave me. And a big blast of energy smashes through the building, killing Sleaze. And Jimmy's just left like, what the hell is going on here? Mary Marvel continues her fight with the dead baby demon. At one point she calls it Devil Daycare, because apparently Mary Marvel is sadistic and is making dead baby jokes now. She's also a lot edgier now, probably because of the influence of Black Adam's powers. She's contemplating killing this demon. She says, normally I don't kill, but in this instance, I might have to. And then a big flash of lightning smacks through her and the demon. I can't tell if she's shot the lightning, because she's screaming in this panel. So I can't tell if she shot the lightning or somebody else shot it into her. Or they both got shot by the police, because the police show up and decide to take the unconscious demon in. And one of them's like, hey Ryan, that was Mary Marvel, right? Like, who cares, Murray? I want 50 feet of titanium between us and this thing ASAP. Donna Troy and Red Hood meet up again, This takes place during Amazon's attack, where Donna Troy was asked by Hippolyta to go and find Wonder Woman, but then when she left, she bumped into a mysterious person, and that person turned out to be Red Hood. For some reason, the last time they talked to each other, Jason decided that he decided not to tell Donna that he did see the person who shot Duella. Instead, he waited until now to tell her. And he says, oh, the person looked like a monitor. And Donna's like, oh, that's not possible. The monitors are supposed to be good guys. The last monitor I saw warned me and told me that I was supposed to die in the crisis. And Red Hood is like, that's probably why they're coming after us. This evil monitor. He's got like an evil twin or something. He's trying to kill us for that very reason. They're basically just explaining everything that we, the reader, already know. Because it's already been explained to us. But it's being explained again. And so a group of evil monitors are watching them. And they decide to send somebody that they refer to as the Forerunner to Earth in order to assassinate them. While Jason and Donna are talking, Donna just gets smacked aside by the Forerunner. She's like, ow! Crashes into the ground. Donna! And then Jason just gets the crap beaten out of him by the Forerunner, who seems to have super speed. Beats him up so much that his helmet gets broken to pieces. It's like, who are you? And then he passes out, and the Forerunner appears before him and says, humans are such fragile creatures. This next issue might be the worst issue, at least so far, because barely anything happens in it. And I'll show you what I mean. The Forerunner continues her fight with Jason Todd, and by fight I mean she just beats the crap out of Jason Todd and is preparing to kill him, because she's been sent by the monitors to do that. But then Donna Troy rushes in and punches her, but then she looks at her hand and is like, ah! And it's all bleeding, because apparently the Forerunner is made out of something that can hurt Donna Troy just by punching her. Jimmy Olsen puts two and two together and decides that all of these murders that have been going on of the New Gods have to be connected. And then he just gives a whole bunch of exposition explaining what the New Gods are. And that's all he does in this issue. He also talks about the couple of times that he's gotten random powers, and he wants to figure out where they come from. It's like only one way to find out. And so he heads off to figure out what that is. Donna Troy continues fighting the Forerunner, and because she can't hit the Forerunner with her hands, she does one of the most uncharacteristic things that Donna Troy has ever done. She picks up a gun. She even says that it's out of character, but she does it anyway. She picks up a gun and starts shooting it at the Forerunner. Forerunner just throws a weapon at the gun and destroys it, and then continues throwing more weapons, and Donna Troy is just deflecting them all. And Donna Troy says that the Forerunner is not telling the entire truth. Like, it's like she doesn't necessarily want to kill Jason and Donna, not truly, and that she's just doing what she's told to do. Oh, I fully intend to give you an old school beatdown, but I'm just saying on top of it all that you're full of crap. The homeless man tries to help Holly as thanks for saving his life by offering her to introduce her to the soup kitchens and stuff like that, because he assumes that, like him, she is homeless and all that. And she refuses. She's like, I'm not a charity case. I didn't save you to get something in return. I don't want to help you. Like, I don't want you to help me. And then a mysterious woman appears behind Holly. It's like, a woman like you doesn't need charity. She needs a place to call home. The Forerunner almost kills Donna Troy, but is stopped by the good monitor. He shows up, and the Forerunner is like, what are you doing? Like, you sent me here to kill them. He's like, well, I didn't send you, and now I'm here to tell you to stop, and you have to listen anyway because I'm a monitor. And she says, stand aside and let me do my duty, or I shall be forced to. You cannot harm me. You cannot harm any of the monitors. It is a breeding failsafe. an insurance policy against your people. He says some pretty brutal things to the Forerunner. Like, he knocks her out and says, "You are a Forerunner, a tool in service of the Monitors. You stop when I tell you to stop." "I don't understand. I was chosen at random. They should have never bred your people. My brothers are stupid to think they can snap a collar around your neck and control you like a personal attack dog. Fortunately, you cannot harm us. Not ever. You don't trust me? We don't trust you. We have never trusted you, not to bite the hand that feeds you." It's just really brutal. It's like, damn, like, that's a bit much. You don't have to go as far as to say that her entire race is completely useless. The other monitors see what's going on, and we learn that this whole monitor council situation is really complicated, because they're mad that one of them is going around killing people that shouldn't be on this earth, but also they are mad at the Forerunner being used, because they don't agree with using the Forerunners to solve their problems. So they hate the good Monitor for taking things into his own hands and saving Jason, Donna, and Kyle from being, or just Jason, Donna being killed. But they also hate the evil Monitor for sending a Forerunner in as well. So, like, it's just really overly complicated. The evil Monitor's like, "Stop being angry at me, and let's focus on being angry at that guy who saved their lives." And then what is probably the most pointless part of the story ever happens. Karate Kid is still in the Watchtower, and he doesn't do anything. And the reason why he doesn't do anything is because there is another story going on at the same time called the Lightning Saga. And in that story, the Justice League and the JSA are teaming up in order to find the Legion of Superheroes. So the Karate Kid storyline has been put on hold until the Legion have been found. They even say that. They're just like, until we find the Legion, you can just stay in the Watchtower and not do anything, Karate Kid. It's, when I was talking about earlier how there are examples of stories just being stalled because other stories were going on? This is one of those moments. It's really stupid. And if you want to find out what happens in the Lightning Saga, you can either go read it or wait a few weeks and I will eventually cover it in the future. Most likely after Countdown. The Monitor gets a couple more digs into the Forerunner before leaving her to just be alone. And the Forerunner states that she would rather die than be forsaken. And she cuts off her own hair and is ready for whoever's going to come to her to eliminate her because she is alone and all she wants is death. And then we, as a reader, discover that she is not alone and that she is being watched by everybody's favorite villain from Zero Hour, Monarch. That's right, Monarch's back, and he is showing interest in the Forerunner. Because he believes that he can use her for his own plans. Because yes, Monarch is back. And he's not Hank anymore. He's Captain Atom. And I don't want to go in that. I don't want to go into that. Onto who this Monarch is. Because it's too complicated. And it doesn't matter. Monarch is back, and he's got plans for Forerunner. So it turns out that the lightning that hit Mary Marvel earlier has teleported her to the Rock of Eternity, where she comes face to face with Billy Batson, who has been fused with the Rock of Eternity. He's become one with it, that's what he says. He kind of looks like a mix between the Wizard and Billy now. He's got long white hair and stuff. And he explains to Mary that Freddy is off doing some trials, and if he succeeds, he'll become the new Shazam. So I guess Billy is still Captain Marvel, he just looks different now. And Freddy is going to become the new Wizard? That makes sense? Mary is thrown back, because she's like, "You're all so different. Where do I fit in all this? That's why I brought you here, Mary. You see, there's kind of a problem. A big one." The Forerunner wanders through a nearby alleyway where she comes face to face with Monarch, and the first thing she does is attack him, and Monarch explains to her that even though the monitors don't believe in her, and they said all those awful things about her, he believes that she is special, and that if she joins him, he will take her down the path of glory, and that he promises that to her. She's pretty complacent with just waiting for her punishment, and if that's death, then she's happy for that. But it takes a bit of convincing, but Monarch eventually convinces her to come with him, and she's like, I will join you for now, Monarch, but if you break your word to me, I will kill you. Jimmy decides to test his random superpowers by getting into a fight on purpose in hopes that one of the superpowers would just randomly appear. So he finds a bunch of rough guys in Suicide Slums and starts a fight with them. They start punching him, but his powers don't activate. It's like, what's going on? Why aren't they activating yet? And another guy goes in to grab him, and that's when his powers finally activate, and a bunch of spikes start shooting out of him. It's like, the spine's retracting. But why'd they come out when the guy tried to grab me, but not when the other guy punched me? I don't understand any of this, in addition to whatever else is happening to me. I think I'm losing my mind. The mysterious woman who appeared before, Holly Robinson, turns out to be an Amazonian who owns a shelter for women who have no place to go. So she introduces Holly to this shelter, and we see a bunch of Amazonian women inside it. One problem I've noticed about Countdown already is there are way too many stories going on in each issue. 52 would often have each issue revolve around 2 stories. Like, there would be 8 overall stories, but each issue would only be covering 2 at a time, or, pushing 2 at a time forward. So they have more breathing room. But in Countdown, there's like 10 stories going on at the same time, and each issue has a bit of all of them. So you end up with like 2 pages for each story, and so they're just crawling along at the worst pace. So at this point, Bart Allen is already dead. That story has happened, and so now Pied Piper and the Trickster are on the run from the police as wanted men because they took part in Bart's death. They were there. Even though they didn't kill him, or they said they didn't, I'm pretty sure they were 2 of the villains that were attacking him when he died. They were still there, so they're still being chased by the police. So they decide to watch each other's backs and go searching for the rest of the rogues. Billy explains to Mary that the problem he has is the way that Mary fought that demon from earlier. She was getting a little bit too risky, a bit brutal, or savage. And Mary's like, I was just doing my job. It's like, no, even your uniform has changed. Mary, what's happened to you? It's like, the power I have from now, it came from Black Adam. He shared some of his with me because I asked him. But he's like, what? Are you out of your mind? You have no idea what something like that might do to you. What was I supposed to do? I woke up from a coma. I had no powers, and I was totally alone. I couldn't find Freddy. I couldn't find you. What was I supposed to do? Start your life over? Mary, did you ever think maybe it was destiny that you lost your powers? That you weren't meant to have them forever? And Mary's just like, well, you know what? Maybe it was destiny that I did get Black Adam's powers. And if you're not going to help me figure out what I'm going to do, then I guess I'll have to find out what my destiny is by myself. And she smashes open a nearby wall and flies through it. It's like, I'll pursue my destiny alone. Yeah, so far I'm not really a fan of this evil Mary Marvel storyline that we seem to be building up to. Okay, as much as I hate what DC did with Bart Allen and how his death happened and the fact that he died to begin with, this issue of Countdown has his funeral, and I have to admit, Paul Dini pulled it off well. It's a great funeral. I might hate the circumstances of what's happened, but a lot of the characters give beautiful speeches. It's just a very heartfelt moment. Everyone's talking about how much they love Bart Allen. I highly recommend reading it, especially if you're a fan of Bart, just to see it. I enjoyed it. It's the only issue I enjoyed. Or at least I enjoyed the funeral parts of it. There are some bits in the funeral that I don't like how Rose Wilson is there, and she's just on her phone, and she looks like she don't want to be there. It's like, why did you even go there? If you're just going to be looking at your phone and you don't even care. Donna Troy and Jason Todd have shown up at the funeral as well, because Donna Troy knew Bart really well, and so she's really sad that he's gone. And the Monitor is there with them, and he wants to leave the funeral because he wants them to find, or help him find, Ray Palmer. And throughout the funeral, they're just telling him to shut up and be more respectful because he's at a funeral. And he just refuses to shut up. He just keeps nagging at them about it. There's a nice moment where Pied Piper and the Trickster show up to pay respects to Bart as well. And then they decide to leave because Trickster's like, if we're here any longer, they're going to catch us and we'll be in trouble. But as they leave, Piper gets shot by Multiplex, a villain who can copy himself. And then, so Trickster tries to fight Multiplex, and then he gets shot by Deadshot. Deadshot just shows up. Guys like you are an embarrassment to the community. So yeah, I wonder what that's all about. Monarch brings the Forerunner to the Bleed, which is where all of his army is, like all of his troops, and he tells her that she is going to be the leader of his troops. Their goal is to travel to different Earths and slaughter lots of people in order to find the Monitors and kill them too. Basically, they just want to go around to different Earths and just kill everyone, including the Monitors. Holly Robinson is given a tour of the shelter for women by a woman who is apparently Athena. This is supposed to be Athena. And Athena allows her to go off and chill in a hot tub, where she meets a woman, and the two of them start they start chatting, having a conversation, and it's revealed that this woman that she's talking to is Harleen Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn, but without her makeup and all that. It's weird seeing her just as a normal woman. So they're starting to become friendly. There's a moment where, at the funeral, where Tim brings out a DVD, which is a pre-recording of Bart, who created a speech in case he died. And it's pretty good, so I actually want to show it. Okay, red light is on. Hi guys, you probably think it's creepy of me to do this. Got the idea from this website I saw where you can watch videos of people after, they die. Okay, yeah, that is kind of creepy when you say it out loud, but I thought it was cool. Anyway, I've been thinking. Which I know Wonder Girl says is dangerous and that thinking isn't my thing, but okay, I'll try to focus. My brain's always going a million miles a minute. I wanted to say that I know we're kids and we're probably crazy for putting on costumes and fighting maniacs that want to kill us, but I figure the big guys like Superman and Batman and Flash can't be everywhere all the time. You know what that's like, Con. Most of us are following in the footsteps of giants. We're the next generation and we can't run from that responsibility. When Deathstroke shot me, I don't know, it just makes me think about when Troyer and Omen were killed. That could have been me then, or Arrowette, or Secret, or Robin, or any of us. And I mean, I know sometimes the good guys don't win. I know that. That's the risk we take. Though, we're in the saving the world business now, and that sounds really corny, doesn't it? When I look at the old heroes, I see how serious they are, especially Batman. Geez, could he lighten up every once in a while or what? Robin, please don't tell him I said that. Anyway, if for some reason I should get killed in the Flash tradition of saving the universe from some crisis or kicking Darkseid's butt, I don't want you to forget how much fun I had being alive, or how lucky I am to have you guys at my side as my friends. And make sure someone tells Wally if he can't be here to see this, that it's okay. I mean, he is a huge butthead, but he was also a great teacher, and it's not his fault that bad things happen. I know Wonder Girl is still hurting, even though she's all tough and would never say it. Her idea to start a new Titans? It's awesome. Best idea ever, because we can't ever give up hope. That's not what we do. I know I won't regret a single moment, and if I'm super lucky, then someday I'll be the Flash just like my grandfather Barry. Sure, I'll never be as good as he was, but I owe it to him and the people of Keystone to at least try. So I guess that's it. I'm turning this off now. Honestly, guys, I'm having the best time being a Titan, though I wouldn't mind a few more parties. Or any, right, Khan? I'm just saying. It's definitely one of the highlights of the issue, but at the same time, it just reminds me of what happened to him, and I just don't even want to think about it. But I think Paul Dini did a very good job of speaking through Bart Allen and having his voice feel accurate. And then the Monitor's like, now that that's over, can we talk about the Nanoverse? He's like, I've had it with you. And Jason just attacks him. Donna's like, that's enough, and takes them up into the sky and is like, you two need to stop arguing. You know, do you want to kill each other? And the Monitor just apologizes to her and like, I'm just saying that we need to go and find Ray Palmer, because if we don't, it'll be the end of the multiverse as we know it. That's why we need to do it. And Jason's like, why can't we just get help from all the people down there? It's like, we know we can't do that. We can't do that. The only person who can help us is Ray Palmer. They never explain why, but they have to travel through the multiverse in order to find him. Now, if you're wondering what happened to Ray Palmer, if you don't know and you need to be caught up on that, during Identity Crisis, Ray Palmer's ex-wife, Jean Loring, accidentally killed Sue Dibney. And she got done for murder and locked up, and that sent Ray Palmer over the edge, and he just ran away, and since then, nobody knows where he is. Bart's casket is carried away to be buried, and Jimmy is determined now to figure out what kind of hero he's going to be. Because he's got all those powers that are random, and now he's got to figure out how he's going to be a hero. For some reason, he also looks like a guy who's in his 50s in this one panel. The Forerunner is determined to get revenge against the Monitors and kill the Forerunner that had replaced her, but Monarch explains to her that he's already killed all the Forerunners, so now they can just focus on getting their revenge and killing the Monitors. They don't have to worry about the Forerunners anymore, because they were killed off panel, apparently. So we get to see Bart get killed by the Rogues again, and he begins clawing at Trickster's chest, saying, Trickster, how? How could you let them do this to me? And then he gets zapped by Weather Wizard alongside Trickster. Trickster screams, and it turns out he's just having a nightmare. He's been taken hostage by Deadshot and Multiplex, and he's cuffed to Piper. They've arrested them because I guess there must be a bounty on their head, so they plan on turning them in for the bounty. Mary Marvel continues searching through Gotham City for things to do. When she sees an explosion go off, she heads over there, she finds the Riddler there and assumes that he did it, and she picks him up and is gonna drop him so that he splats on the ground. But the Riddler explains to her that he is not a villain anymore, he's a private investigator. She can even ask Batman and he'll tell her, and that they should work together to find out the true culprit of this explosion. He says, look down there, there's a bunch of mud down there. Maybe that's a clue. So they head down there to check out this mysterious mud. Holly Robinson and Harleen Quinzel have a conversation where it's revealed that Harleen has turned over a new leaf and is no longer a supervillain. She's no longer Harley Quinn. She is, in fact, the director of this shelter, and she works for Athena. Holly asks Harley if Athena has any other ulterior motives, and Harleen says no. She's just doing this because it's the right thing to do. The Monitor, Donna Troy, and Jason Todd go to visit Ryan Choi because apparently Ray Palmer has entered the Palmerverse. I'm not joking, that's what it's called. They say that he's so big-headed that he named an entire universe after himself. The Palmerverse is the subatomic universe, and so they want to travel there in order to find him, and to do that they're going to need Ryan's help. And Ryan is the new Atom. So he puts on his Atom suit, and he prepares to help them enter the Palmerverse. There's a moment in this where one of Ray Palmer's friends, Marty, is being a real creep to Donna Troy. And it's played off like a joke, but he is actually being a sex pest right here. And then they go to the Palmerverse. It's like, did you see that? She winked at me. Uh-huh. I love a woman who dresses in star clusters. It's like, shut up, man. Go die in a hole. And it's sad because he is a rare example of representation for disabled people because he's in a wheelchair. And it just sucks that he's a terrible dude. Riddler and Mary Marvel investigate the mysterious mud, where it turns out that it's Clayface. So Clayface attacks the Riddler, and Mary Marvel whips around him in a tornado and sends him flying off into space. It's like, was that a little bit too far? I mean, he'll fall back. He's dirt. Dirt falls back to Earth eventually. Riddler suggests that maybe she go and see a mentor to help with her anger management issues. And when he mentions that, we then cut to Batman, where Karate Kid approaches him from behind. Batman's like, what are you doing? And Karate Kid's like, the Legion came back to the 31st century, so I'm gonna head off and meet them, and I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for kicking your ass. I promise I won't do it again. I just wanted to say goodbye. And Batman's like, if we fought again, you would not kick my ass the second time. And I'm just thinking, he probably would, because Karate Kid's power is literally to be the best at karate. Or just martial arts in general. Like, that's his superpower. Jimmy Olsen begins designing his own superhero costumes. We see that there's Elastic Lad and Human Porcupine. These are all references to powers that he had during the Silver or Bronze Age, I'm pretty sure. Lois Lane comes along and mocks his costume designs. It's like, I think it's a sign that you should stick with your day job. Yeah, good one, Lois. I feel kind of bad for him. Like, it feels like she's been a little too mean. I know she's just ribbing, but come on. Leave Jimmy alone. Trickster asks if he can be split up from Piper, and Deadshot proves that he's not stupid. He's like, yeah, I'll separate you for a second so that you have a chance to escape. And so instead, Trickster decides to use a trick, which he has a fake tooth that he shoots up into the sky, and it explodes, causing a distraction that allows them to... It gives Trickster the opportunity to run into the door of the room that they're in, and he busts it open, and it turns out that the room they're in is actually inside a plane, and so they just fall straight out of the plane or ship or whatever it's supposed to be, a jet, heading straight for the city below. He's like, why wait when we're a single door away from freedom? Oh, maybe this is why. Pied Piper and Trickster fall from the plane that was carrying them hostage, and they still have this cuff connected to them, and if they get too far apart, it will electrocute them, so they have to stick together. Luckily, Pied Piper grabbed a bag that was nearby, and it happens to have all their things in it. So Trickster starts rummaging through the bags, he finds his flying boots, and they decide to put one boot on each, and try and slow their descent so they can land in the water. And they slow down quite a bit, but then Piper's like, whoa, too fast, and they fall straight into the water below. Jimmy has made his own costume, and he is now calling himself Mr. Action. That is the superhero name that he came up with. And we see him as he looks in the mirror with his costume on. It kind of looks like a low-budget Atom suit. And he's also going to have a secret identity, because he's got to head to work. So he heads off to the Daily Planet, where he wears a suit, and apparently there's a heat wave going on, and so he's extra sweaty. Lois is like, why are you wearing a suit in this weather? And Jimmy says that he wanted to dress more professional for Perry, but it turns out he's just wearing the suit to hide his costume underneath. Mary Marvel thinks about how edgy she's becoming, the fact that she ripped apart Clayface, and meanwhile somebody is watching her from a distance, saying that she is perfect. I imagine it's probably Monarch. They're trying to keep it a secret, but it's probably Monarch. Donna Troy, Jason, Ryan Choi, and the Monitor all travel through the Palmerverse in search for Ray Palmer, and they're all thanking each other for what they've done, patting each other on the back, and Jason decides that from now on, he's going to call the Monitor Bob, which is probably the best part of this whole comic, is that the Monitor just gets called Bob the Monitor, and that's what I will be referring to him as from now on. I will be calling him Bob. So whenever I say Bob, I'm referring to the Monitor. So they end up landing in a part of the Palmerverse which is full of grass and trees, like a jungle, and they are then surrounded by a group of tribal looking, it's like a tribe of people riding what look like mechanical frogs. Piper and Trickster climb out of the water and discover that they are in Gotham City, and Piper says that he knows someone that will be able to help them, possibly, so they head off to the Iceberg Lounge, owned by the Penguin. Amazon's attack is currently going on, and Holly and Harley watch it happening at the shelter that they're in, and there's a whole crowd of people outside that want them dead. They're calling them murderers and stuff because they're related to the Amazons. And so Harleen decides to go out and deal with the crowd, and Holly has to stop her because she's going to get herself hurt. And she's like, do you really think you can convince them when we're peaceful or anything else by beating the crap out of them? Maybe. This isn't helping. Karate Kid and a couple of the other members of the Legion head to the Fortress of Solitude, where there is a gate that will take them back to the 33rd century. But as Karate Kid is about to enter, Brainy apparently says that he cannot go back to the future for some reason that they won't tell him. Instead, another character called Una emerges from the portal and says that she knows exactly what to do, like what's going on. And Karate Kid is like, so you do know what this is all. I've got some ideas, Karate Kid, and the first one is to get ourselves out of here, because we've got a very long journey ahead of us. So the reader is left in the dark, and I guess we'll find out what is going on with Karate Kid later. The species that has surrounded Donna Troy, Ryan Choi, Jason Todd, and Bob seem to not like them. They don't like the fact that Ryan Choi is wearing Ray Palmer's costume. They don't like the mention of his name. Donna Troy tries to talk them down, but Jason just brings out a knife and decides to fight them, so all hell breaks out loose. Jimmy Olsen has been going around fighting criminals as Mr. Action, and a newsstand guy is retelling the story of how he saw Mr. Action fight these guys, and that he had fun watching him, because Jimmy was using his powers and he was enjoying it. And then Lois arrives and gets the story from this guy, and Jimmy arrives as well and acts like he's just Jimmy Olsen and has nothing to do with Mr. Action. Lois is like, oh, it's true. All the good names are taken. Thank you for your time, sir. Hey, Jimmy, did you say you stopped for film? I thought you'd gone digital. Right, it's for my other camera. So he's like having a lie about what he's doing, trying to keep that secret identity. Mary Marvel goes to a cruise ship to watch Zatanna put on a magic show. She's considering possibly asking Zatanna for help with controlling her Black Adam powers. There's a heckler in the audience, and Mary considers killing this guy just for booing Zatanna a little bit. Like, the guy's a dick, but she considers just dropping him from a height and watching him splat. And Zatanna senses this evil within Mary, and is like, oh, that's not the Mary I know. Maybe I should have a chat with her. Holly Robinson takes a walk around the shelter where she comes across Harley talking to a mother with her son. The mother just wants to be in the shelter, but they won't let her stay there. And they tell her to go to the county shelter, where the mother says that if they go to the county shelter, there's a good chance they'll get stabbed. So they'd rather just stay out on the street. And Holly comes in and is like, what was that about? Why aren't you letting them stay here? Why is Athena so specific with which women get to stay here and which here don't? And Harley's like, if you want to know that, then you go talk to her yourself about that. She has her reasons. And Holly says, maybe I will. There's a pretty great Darkseid moment that happens in this, where he's watching his army of parademons be created, and he has this woman next to him that he refers to as his concubine, which he sees has merely just dirt that is there to praise him or just be next to him. And she does praise him, but because Darkseid has such an unpredictable temperament, he destroys her. She's like, "My lord, I am humbled and amazed. I never dreamed such tenderness could spring from the breast of mighty Darkseid. Yes, I imagine the hordes of Apocalypse would be similarly taken back if they knew." And then he just vaporizes her. Let's bear them the shock, shall we? And then he asks Desaad to bring him another concubine, and says that this time, have that concubine's throat ripped out so that she can't talk. And I just thought that was a pretty cool Darkseid moment that just shows how ruthless he is, while still giving him a personality. A character called Bug is watching this happen from the distance, and he is a friend of Lightray, and his goal is to find out what happened to Lightray, who murdered him. And he has suspicions that it's Darkseid, but he doesn't know yet. The fight between the Ray Palmer search squad and the Forest tribe continues, where the Monitor is just like, when are we just going to end this so that we can get the answers that we're looking for? Jason Todd ends up being the one who ends it just using brute force. He jumps on top of the leader and says, "These guys are nice, they're not going to try to kill you, but I'm a bad guy and I will kill you if you don't give us the answers that we're looking for." And this impresses the leader of the tribe. He's like, "Ha! That sounds like the words of a true warrior." It turns out these tribes guys are friends of Ray Palmer's, and they just didn't trust these people, especially this guy that was dressed in Ray Palmer's costume. He talks about how when Ray Palmer last came through, he looked really defeated, really crushed, and that he's worried about him. He also explains that Ray Palmer has gone off to search for powerful magics that could undo the doom that has befallen him. Like, where would one seek such powers? There is a realm beyond this one, where all things are possible. Go on. The Penguin is holding a party at the Iceberg Lounge, and he heads into his office, where he comes face to face with Trickster and Piper. They just want to have refuge there for a minute, just to chill, because they're currently being hunted down. And the Penguin doesn't want them to stay there because different supervillains have been going missing recently, and he doesn't want to be the next one. But they convince him to let them stay there because they say that they'll give him something in return, probably money, etc. So they go down into the cellar, into the wine cellar, where they just have a little conversation with each other. But it turns out that Oracle has been tracking them, and she's sent the Question to go and take them down. Renee Montoya, the new Question. So she waits outside, ready to pounce on Trickster and Piper. Karate Kid and Una are searching for Oracle for reasons that have not been revealed to us yet. So they find her secret hideout, and they head inside it, dodging a whole bunch of traps like lasers and stuff, till they enter a room which shuts behind them. But then Karate Kid taps on a wall, and Una's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, and kicks the wall, smashing it open, where Oracle's avatar appears in front of him, is like, "Did all the expensive keep you out hardware not clue you in? I want to be left alone." And she attacks Karate Kid and Una with a whole bunch of robotic tentacles. Pied Piper and Trickster are seeking refuge at the Iceberg Lounge. They believe that the Penguin is on their side, but when he leaves the room, it's revealed that he's actually working with the Suicide Squad and allows them to have at it with Pied Piper and Trickster. The Ray Palmer search squad travels through subquantum space to a magical realm that Ray Palmer has possibly gone to. And when they get there, they discover that everything is different then. Nothing makes sense. Down is up is left. And Monitor states that as weird as this place is, they need to stay on alert because they are being watched. Jimmy Olsen stops the guy from stealing a woman's purse by knocking him out. The woman comes over and gives him a kiss, and he begins to see some of the highlights of being a superhero, and he decides that now the next thing he needs to do is join a team. So he starts thinking about what team he wants to join. He ends up settling on the Teen Titans, which doesn't make sense because Jimmy is not a teen. And as he's thinking about joined into Teen Titans, the guy that he knocked out just gets up and walks away without him noticing. The Penguin continues his party, but then hears a loud noise. It's like, oh, don't tell me it's Health Inspector's out of the way! As Piper and Trickster start crashing through the door, running through the party with the Suicide Squad in tow, and Deadshot begins trying to get, like, an aim on them, but there's too many citizens in the way, and Bronze Tiger grabs Piper and pulls him far enough apart from Trickster that it causes the cuff that they're wearing to electrocute both of them and Bronze Tiger. Plastique decides that she's going to blow up the entire party, but Penguin shoots her with gas from his umbrella. He's like, no, this is an explosion-free establishment, miss. Like, just whose side are you on? My side. And Boomerang's just like, don't worry, I got this. He throws a boomerang at Trickster and Piper, but they manage to get out of the building, and he continues chasing after them. Bronze Tiger gets in their way, and so they have to quickly turn and run down another alley away from them. And there's some weird dialogue here, some pretty cringe dialogue, where Trickster says, you better not have touched me in my special area. I better not kill you, you mean? It's just more derogative speak from Trickster, because obviously he's saying that because Pied Piper is gay and Trickster is a homophobe. But it just feels unnecessary. Harleen takes Holly to go and visit Athena so that Holly can ask her about what happened with that woman and her son, why they couldn't stay at the shelter. She also says that Harleen hasn't changed as a person and that she may not be worshipping the Joker anymore, but she's just switched her fixations to Athena. And Harleen's like, you're the one who spent her life sucking up to Catwoman. Athena will see you now. And so Holly goes and visits Athena, and Athena explains to her that the reason why they didn't let mothers or people with family in is because they don't have the funds in order to secure their safety, and that they are focusing entirely on women that don't have anything and need better role models. And she suggests that Holly come to her self-esteem workshop that she's holding soon. She's like, please, won't you please attend so that you at least might see for yourself the merits of my philosophy? And Holly reluctantly agrees. Oracle reveals that she knows exactly who Karate Kid and Una are and that they are from the Legion, but that she has no time for them right now because they want to talk to her. And she's like, I just don't have time for that. I'm busy. But they continue fighting through her traps anyway. They break through all of her traps and meet Oracle face to face. It's like, look, you're definitely who you claim to be, but I meant what I said. I really don't have time for you right now. Why not? Well, for starters, I'm keeping the secret identities and home addresses of every superhero in the world from being stolen. Think maybe that's a little bit important? Pied Piper and Trickster manage to get away from the Suicide Squad. Pied Piper just uses his Piper to trick the Suicide Squad into thinking that they're invisible, because he can do that. But then the question appears in front of them. Like, another one? Oh, come on. Before you start running, guys, you should ask yourselves the question, would I really have come after you alone? And it's revealed that Batwoman is there too. And so Piper and Trickster are in a bit of a sticky situation, and we'll find out how this resolves next week, because this is the end of part 1 of Countdown. So next week we're going to be doing Countdown part 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. So far, Countdown is as messy as I expected it to be. There are a couple of moments in this that I don't think are bad, and so far I don't think this is outright terrible, but I can definitely see why nobody's really a fan of this. None of the stories have been all that interesting so far. It's the complete opposite of 52, where I was fully invested in those stories. In this one, I'm barely invested at all, and some of the stories so far have just been outright bad. I don't really care about the Holly Robinson story with Athena and all that stuff, and the Mary Marvel story might be the worst one, just because I don't like the fact that her character is currently being ruined, and she's being turned into an edgy, dark, evil version of herself. But I guess we'll see what happens next time, I imagine it only gets worse from here. See you next week for more Countdown.